get the microphone working so that they can hear the questions. All right. Well, yeah, every time I go to the radio show, I get somebody after me about he can't hear the questions, so I threw Zach under the bus. And so he promises me today I won't get one of those questions today at the radio show. So if I do, I'm throwing you under the bus again.
All right, we're ready.
Well, you'll get thrown under the bus too, but not just by me, by everybody else who are out there. So obviously, big win last week. It was obviously great. Everybody always kind of says, is it a big win when you beat a team from the Big Ten? And, I don't say the other, what they call them conferences and things like that. And yes, but I don't think that our program and our team looks at it like that. It was obviously a 3-0 opponent that came in here that had been playing well. And regardless of what conference they're from, I think our guys look at it as a challenge. And any win is a big win, but I think when you're playing a 3-0 team, I think it's great. I also love the fact that when you're playing teams within your region, it even means a little bit more. 81% of our guys are from a 300-mile radius, so they know a lot about those teams within that region. So, we got a lot of guys from Indiana, and so when you have those kinds of things, I think it even means a little bit more, regardless of what conference they're from. For us, it's all about the big picture of things. So that's first and foremost. I think that I thought it was an awesome atmosphere. Not that the week before wasn't down at the Bengal Stadium, but I know our guys thrive upon having the ability to play in Nippert Stadium, and coming out there for warm-ups when you've got the entire student section already filled, I think it's pretty special. We might need to talk to them about, finishing out the game 38-10 is not the end of a game, but I think we need to educate them maybe a little bit. But I think the fans, the atmosphere was phenomenal. I think that's, it showed in the first half. I think our guys fed off of it, really, really played well. I think we had some guys that had some standout games, and I'm sure I'll get those questions, and guys have got some recognition. I don't think any of those are above what we did as a team. And, there's things we can nitpick at and focus on the second half and some things we got to do better. But, as a whole, I think offense, defense, and special teams, there's a lot of really, really good things that we got to take us as we continue to push and start this league play. But obviously Tyler Scott had a phenomenal game. I thought Ivan Pace obviously had a phenomenal game. I think Mason Fletcher had a phenomenal game. And so you're talking about all three phases of the game that, you have somebody that has a spark, but the people around them obviously give them an opportunity to do what it is they do as well. So now it's about moving on to league play. And we got to go on the road. We really haven't been on the road since Arkansas, and we all remember how that happened or what happened there. So we know that this league, if you want to play for a championship, you got to not only win your league, you got to win on the road, and you got to be really good on the road. So we got a great challenge in front of us. Obviously, Tulsa has given us the best games over the last 3 or 4 years as anybody. And so we know it's going to be a really hard-fought battle, a night game on the road.
You talked Saturday about maybe not feeling as good as the final score looked when you came off the field. Watching it back, did your feelings change at all?
No, unfortunately, you live in this realm that there's always things you're trying to find that are better. There were a lot more things I didn't recognize that were as good as they were. The way the defense played, the way the defense responded. 109 snaps is way too many, but it's sometimes it's the nature of the beast and what it is we're doing. Turnovers were good. I thought we did a good job defensively there. The things that stick out in my head are just some of the bonehead ones that, between me and some others, the fourth down play where, you're not going to win championships making mistakes like that, coming up a little bit short on a first down, not being good enough in the sudden change situations and giving up leverage when one big play defensively. So those are the things, unfortunately, that stuck in my mind. Obviously, there's a lot of plays and a lot of really good, and I think those are things that are easily fixed and adjusted. So that bodes well for us.
Do you feel the positives of being disappointed in a 21-point win?
Yeah, there was a time when, maybe it wasn't quite like that. And, I think our guys feel the same way. And I don't want to take away from winning. When said that to you in the press conference. I promise you, when I walked in that locker room, and the way we talked about the game is we're gonna enjoy the win. We're gonna celebrate it because it's not easy to win in college football today. You just got to look around every single week, But when we come in on Sunday, that's when we kind of hammer back down on now. Let's find ways to get better. Normally, we learn lessons from other games. We take games in college football and pull them for the team meeting. We actually pulled clips from our own game about lessons to learn in football, so that we're not going to repeat them. Hopefully, we can learn them from others, but we got to learn some lessons from ourselves for sure.
Dominique Perry made his season debut. After watching the film, do you like what you saw in his first action this year?
He did a great job. I'm so happy for him. He's had a tougher situation, just being out since camp, and he got back on a Tuesday practice. I don't know if he played 30 snaps, 25 snaps. We were a little bit concerned with how many snaps they would allow him to play. But he went in there, played well, practiced well all week, and he's a guy we need. He was, I think actually with him being out is where Dante Corleone got a little bit more opportunities. But with him coming back, we'll actually be able to spread the wealth a little bit more, play those guys maybe even some less, and be able to move Dom around. He's a guy that can fill in, I think, and play a 5 technique as well as a nose guard.
You mentioned some of those clips, lessons. What were the things specifically that you looked at to try and take from that game?
Well, as coaching staff, you sit there and evaluate, the 2-minute situation before the end of half. That's not one I showed the kids, but if we're in that situation, there's a balance there. Like, how much do you want to be aggressive? How much do you want to say, okay, let's don't tank it in and go to the second half. So as a coach, you're always trying to evaluate those situations. That was one for me. And then the 4th down play, when you've got something, again, we snap the ball because we feel like a guy moves. We feel like we've got an opportunity to take the shot because it's an offsides. But in those situations, if in doubt, you can't. It has to be pretty egregious. But that's also a situation for a coach when you say, okay, maybe this isn't the right time to do this, in the midst of where the game is and the score and things like that. So, when I show these clips, we're not only showing them for the kids, we're showing them for the coach in the back of the room and the coach in the front of the room. And then the slide. I think that there's a great learning lesson there for all, because I'm not sure we all understand that when the clock's not under 2 minutes in college football, it really doesn't stop. So for Ben to be able to run himself out of bounds and get the first down, it's not like we're saving time. This isn't the NFL where you got to stay in bounds and slide and do those things. You could run yourself out of bounds. Unless the clock's under 2 minutes is the only time that's going to stop on the out of bounds play. So that was a situation that I don't know if we've ever talked about. I know Ben didn't know it at the time, meaning that like in the split second, but those are things that are very critical. And, we got to learn them with positives behind it, meaning obviously you win the football game.
As you guys head into conference play, 17-7-2 all-time versus Tulsa with another chance to take a series lead. I know you elaborated on that with Miami. What does that feel like with this opportunity to regain that lead in this series again?
I know nothing about the series, to be honest with you, and that's no disrespect. I know what we've played the last 3 times we played them, and whatever it's been before that, it doesn't matter. I know the last 3 have been as tough a football game as we've had in the last 3 years. And, every game is itself. Rivalry games are different. You keep track. You keep some of those history of things. I think these games are ones where you just, hey, man, don't look how they played 3 years ago. Look how they played 2 years ago. Look how they played last year. Obviously they're a very good football team, but they're obviously even different when they've played us. And so regardless of what the history is, we haven't played them on the road, and that's a big deal as well.
This program, Luke, obviously has ascended to national prominence here the last couple of years. I'm curious how much you still value conference championships, being the best team in the conference, even though the program has kind of taken itself to another level.
That's the only goal we have. We don't talk a whole lot about goals. We talk about objectives within our program, but we have one goal. And every year the goal was to play for a championship. And that's the only way you do that is by winning your whatever conference you're in. It won't change next year when we're in a different conference. The number one objective will be to play for a championship, and you've got to win in your conference to do that. And we walk into camp, we talk about goals the very first day, and that's it. And our guys understand that the first 4 games are not preseason like they are in the NFL or something like that. But in some ways, for who we are and what we want, in some ways they are a little bit more of a preseason situation. Obviously, we've changed because we've been fortunate enough to be in the mix in a lot of other things because of the way our guys have played the last 3 years. So those games before the league starts maybe mean a little bit more, but it hasn't changed the way that we've attacked this thing, and the conference is the most important thing that we do.
Are you running out of things to say about Ivan Pace at this point?
Yeah, at some point we'll let him talk for himself. I think he did after the game, and brought him up there after the game in front of the team, and he didn't really want to say anything. At times, a man of few words. But I think that the crazy thing is there's still a lot more for him to grow to do, and that's what's so exciting about what it is that's going on. He understands what it is that we're doing. I think he's each and every week grasping a little bit more of what it is that's around him. So what we need, he's a great player. He's very instinctual. He's going to make a lot of plays for us. Our job is to continue to do what we've done, find ways to get better, but also have him grow in what it is that he does. And understanding, the bigger picture of things is where we still got to challenge him, and whereas he's going to continue to grow because he's got a bright future in football. And the unique thing is no matter what system you're in now, at some point in time you're going to be in a different system, and what we've got to do is continue to challenge you, in different ways to grow, and not just rely upon your instincts. And sometimes that's even harder on a guy that's very instinctual, that's playing really well. They can get into that comfort level of saying, well, I'm going to instinctually play, and so we got to have a balance to continue to push him, to challenge him, to grow him, and to make him do some other things.
The running game was a struggle Saturday. You said after the game that they went in the bear and clogged some holes. After watching it, do you see some other things that maybe they did?
Yeah, I think I give them credit. They did a really good job. I think that they were able to hone in on maybe some specific things when they knew we were running the football that were a little bit more challenging, and not something that we weren't, I think, prepared for, but the way in which they played them maybe. I think that they did a good job. They're pretty big and physical up front, and forced us to probably run into a space where they wanted us to. So there's some things we definitely got to do better. It starts with moving people, but it also just starts with just fundamentally sound and doing enough that they can't kind of gang up on where it is that they know you're going to be. And so that's twofold. That's from us as a staff, coaching to give our guys some different chances, being able to not do the same things that we always do. But it's also on us to be able to move some people too.
There was obviously a very high-profile competition at quarterback before the season started. Now that you've seen Ben for 4 games, how do you evaluate the way he started the year?
Ben has done everything we've asked him to do. I think that he's highlighted the strengths that we have on offense. And that was one of the things as we were in camp trying to, evaluate, the direction of, the offense and who we are as us. You're looking at the strengths that you have. And we kind of had a good feeling that Tyler Scott was a strength of a part of the offense, and Trey Tucker's a strength of the offense, and Josh Wiley and Lenny Taylor are strengths of the offense and really good in the pass game and things like that. So, in some ways, it was playing towards Ben's strengths, and but all in all, Ben has done a really good job. He's done a great job at not just commanding the offense and gaining the respect. Not that he didn't have the respect. Everybody respected him when he walked out the door here, so it wasn't hard for him when he walked back in the door. But I just think that the uniqueness is that he does a really good job at moving the ball around. So in some ways, you just keep everybody involved in the game. I think that's a big deal. And, you don't just get honed in and focused on one guy, because as we continue to move down the road, people are going to have better ideas of things that you're doing. But, I like where he's at because his ability to move the ball around. He does a really good job at taking what's out there and not just forcing things.
Any update on Arquan?
Nope. We'll find out today. I mean, I think he'll give us a little something today, and then we'll see how he progresses throughout the entire week. And I kind of thought at one time maybe he would come back in the game last week. I don't know that he could have. I'm not sure. The situation of it, he probably wasn't going to.
Long-term season?
No.
In the recent years, Tulsa has been a very run-heavy offense, especially against you guys. it seemed like they're throwing the ball around the yard. How much is playing against Indiana going to help you guys this week?
Well, I think that it helps us in all that we do. I mean, you play 109 snaps. You got a lot of work at a lot of different things, and obviously throwing the ball. I think they threw it 75 or attempted to throw it 75 times. Actually, threw 66 passes. And I think the best thing about Tulsa is their balance. I know people say they were they're number 4 in the country in passing and top, in total offense and yardage and things like that. Where they've been so good, and especially against us, is their balance. They can, and they do throw the ball really well, but they run the ball. They ran for 265 yards last week. Last year against us, they rushed for over 200 yards. The year before that was really close to that as well. So, I think that what they do well, and it comes down to balance.
Eric Phillips kind of stepped into that starting role with Malik out. You guys, were expecting him to be a rotation player this year, but what have you seen maybe those first 2 weeks getting more snaps?
I think going into the season, he was the 4th guy that we saw as a starter. And, he had kind of earned that, play hard reputation that, if we say you only play with 3 guys, we have 4 starters. That's, and then we had to find out and develop some of those other guys to see were they legitimate, starters. Are we going to really be able to play balanced 6 guys or 7 guys? But then, obviously, with what happened with Malik, he was kind of forced into, what we thought was maybe a 50% of the time role to maybe a 65% of the time role. And he's done a great job. I think that, he'll continue to get better. He'll continue to get stronger and understand what it is we're doing. But we've got to do a really good job, even though those guys, him and Jabari and those guys play really well. We've got to continue to make sure that we're keeping them. I mean, nobody on the up front can play 109 snaps, and we don't expect them to, but to play 65 or 70 snaps is, in our vision, probably too much too. So, when those guys start to play better, we did this in year 2 with Cortez. We said we were going to only keep him at like 45 to 50 plays a game, and we did that through the first 6 or 7 games. And then you get later in the year, and you start kind of riding that horse, and next thing you go back and evaluate it. In those last 5 games of his senior year, his production went way down. And we went from, playing him 45 to 50 snaps to playing him 65 snaps because, of how good he was and was playing. And so we've got to do a really good job at making sure we're not, just, relying too much on those guys to continue to play because they have played well.
Eric, one of those guys you can hold up for younger guys, an example, like 4th-year guy wasn't even starting technically to begin the year, but
there's so many examples of those things. That's the beauty of having a program and you've been in it for 6 years, but it's really the beauty of having guys that have stuck it out. That's the hard thing with what you see around college football. It's more difficult. There's a lot more opportunities for guys, meaning that, the grass is greener. And so I think it's a great example to our program to see a guy that, has fought and fought and fought. And, not that anything was handed to him, but it was earned. And, guys that continue to do that, stick it out, are in the right place, good things are going to happen. It's great for our program, but it's an even better example for a lot of the guys in these seats.
Any other questions for Coach?
Thanks.
Offensive Player of the Week, Tyler Scott here. Questions for Tyler?
Tyler, we talked to you Saturday after the game, but now that you've had some time to maybe reflect on it, check your social media mentions, how do you feel about your performance Saturday?
I had 5 drops. So that kind of ruined my night. Our second half, it wasn't everybody, but I know personally me, I could be a lot better, especially in the second half, which kind of, was, a part in why we played not so well. So, but no, I'm grateful for the opportunities that I had, early in this, in the first half. So, but yeah, it kind of was wearing on me the 5 drops that I had. So.
Mike Brown was telling me about the work that you and Trey put in away from campus, away from the building, away from when everyone else is doing organized stuff. What does that look like? How much do you guys truly put in to make your guys better, make yourselves better?
Yeah, you have to do what others won't, so the next day you can do what others can't. That's something I kind of live by. So that's a big thing, just really making sure you're honing on your craft and on your skills and, things of that nature. And, coming into this year, like I said, like I've been saying, we want to make history. And, to make history, you got to make sure you're sharp on your craft and, always doing the little things.
Knowing that you had a game like this, you're going to be at the top of the scouting report, next week, next couple weeks. How do you approach that? Do you change your mentality at all? Do you have to remind yourself that maybe you won't get 10 catches for 3 touchdowns this coming week or something like that?
Yeah, each week is different. Just far as a game plan standpoint, just depending on who you're going against, first and foremost, and then also just how the game plays out. One game we may pass the ball, 50 times. Maybe next game we may run the ball 50 times. I may not pass the ball as much. So, just always being ready, when opportunities come my way. As far as just preparation, preparation is the biggest thing, for me, in the week. So, just making sure I'm doing the little things, making sure I'm staying on top of, what I do, making sure I'm in the film study, not too worried about what other teams necessarily are going to do to me personally, but just being ready and just making sure I make the opportunities that come my way.
This is a question I asked Luke, and I'll ask you as well because you've been here now a few years. You've seen this program ascend to a level now where you guys are looked at as a national football program, but all that starts with how you guys perform in conference. How important is it to be conference champions, to be the best team in this league to you?
Yeah, that's one of the first things we talk about coming into the season is to have an opportunity to play for championships. And that's first and foremost starts with the conference championship. And so I believe this is our last year in the conference before we transition to the Big 12. So we definitely want to leave out with a bang.
When you look back to last year's game against Tulsa, that's one of those games that when a team makes a run like you did, you kind of sometimes have to find a way to win those games. What sticks out to you about that game and that matchup last year against Tulsa?
Yeah, Tulsa's kind of been our probably one of the toughest matchups that we've had these past couple years, and they've always had our game circled. But at the end of the day, Coach Fick always talks about finding a way to win, and that's what the great teams do. They find a way to win, and definitely last year we had a lot of older guys who have been in a lot of these situations. But we'll see this year. It's going to be a good opportunity, and they're a good team coming in. They've had a couple good games and hard-fought games where they've shown they're very promising.
Ben missed you on some throws early on at Arkansas, but you guys have seemed to connect on those deep balls. Is that just a thing of reps? You guys are getting more comfortable? What goes into just finally connecting on those deep routes?
Yeah, definitely starts in practice. We started doing a lot of deep balls after practice. Now we started incorporating that something that we hadn't been doing previous in fall camp, and I guess some practice leading up to that. So, we're doing a lot more deep ball drills just to get more of a feel. And then, as practice goes on, you just throw them. So I just think just reps, that's the biggest thing. You can't really, you have to, to get good at this game, you got to play the game. So, just by, having reps and just getting a feel, you can definitely feel the game slowing down for the both of us. So, but yeah.
Have you gotten more fist bumps on campus, more people reaching out to you, dapping you up, anything after 3 touchdowns? That's one of those games that doesn't happen very often for a college football player. Has it been any different for you the last 48 hours?
Social media-wise, yes. On campus? Not really, actually. Literally yesterday, I walked my girlfriend to class, and I also went to get something to eat, and I was in the, I think they call it TUC, and so I went to go get something to eat, was standing in line like a regular person. Nobody came up to me or anything like that, which perfectly cool with. Walked through campus, like I was a regular student. I mean, personally for me, nothing really changes. But I don't know if people around me notice me or not. But no, I mean, just kind of just still living regular life. As if just another game.
When's the last time you had a 3-touchdown game?
When I was in high school. Yeah, I think my junior year. It's my senior year. Yeah.
I think it was your second one. It's kind of out of that like tight bunch, 12 personnel.
Mhm.
I think maybe you're technically on the boundary side.
Yeah.
Moving you guys around like that, obviously you're mostly playing the field, but what does that do for you personally, and what stress does that put on defenses when all of you receivers are kind of moving to different spots?
Yeah, so I mean, on that play particularly, that's something that we had kind of put in a couple weeks back. And that was kind of a short down and distance type of deal where it was like, okay, it was the exact type of sequence, that we were looking for, like a 3rd and 1, plus 50. We're gonna get in. I don't know if we're in 13 personnel at the time, and just kind of give a real bunch look and take a shot. So it worked out perfectly. But I mean. It puts stresses on different, on defenses and cornerbacks and things of that nature. But it worked out how we wanted to.
You guys receivers seem to be a very unselfish group. Like whoever gets the ball that game, great, as long as we get the win. Does it help having seen a guy like Alec Pierce who, never really lit up the world statistically, but obviously, scouts noticed he could play and 2nd round pick. Does seeing that be able to make that transition like he did help you all out there as well?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you learn. You learn, you watch. You just take different notes and things of that nature as you're growing up. And last year, I ended up starting last year, my sophomore year. But one thing I recognized was just the people around me and what was going on. We had a lot of guys with a lot of different opportunities, especially offensively. And so just really recognizing, what's going on around me. And just knowing like it's kind of their time right now, and it's kind of their time to take that next step. And while they're doing that, I'm learning, and then when the opportunities came my way, I tried to make the best of them.
Any other questions for Tom? We're good. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Got sixth-year senior linebacker Will Huber here. Questions for Will?
How do you feel Sunday morning after going against a team that ran 104 plays on Saturday?
To be honest, better than I thought it was going to feel. I thought, me and Jaheim in the rotation we had kept us both fresh. So on my part, I felt pretty good, and I think the team felt pretty good as a whole. I think it was a pretty clean game for everybody coming out of it. And it was difficult, and it's a situation that we're not in very much, playing the 104 plays. But I thought we handled it really well. Came out on Sunday. For the most part, ready to go, and we got after it Sunday, just preparing for this week up ahead.
2 years ago, Luke Fickell would talk about how UCF is the class of the league. Now you guys are the class of the league, having won the last 2 championships. We see the work, but what does that work look like to get to that point away from everything, the stuff that we don't get to see? How much work have you guys put in to get yourself in this position?
Everything we do, from the moment we walk in the building, it would be, I think, January 13th is when we started, this new team to now. Every day we're in here doing something to, get us to that next step. In the off season, in the winter, it was, for that first 6 weeks of the winter, it was just the strength training. And then you move into the next phase of spring ball. And then after spring ball, you have a next phase, it's more strength training. And then you hit, the kind of phase in the summer where you're doing some OTAs, you're starting to work into football, but you're not quite there yet. and then you kind of hit it running when you hit camp, and that's when football really dives deep. But I mean everything we do every day we come in here, it is to work and to get to the point where we want to be.
A game like Saturday where offense is really clicking in the first half, maybe not so much in the second half. How does the defense respond to that, or maybe try and stay the same level of locked in when things could be going different on the other side?
I mean, like I said, it was a very unique situation. Offense was definitely clicking in the first half, but we got to play 3 units of one: offense, defense, and special teams. Unfortunately, the offense may have slowed down a little bit in the second half, but our goal was still to do the same things defensively. And there will be a situation sometimes at some point this year, we need that offense to step up and continue to roll. But we were able to kind of handle that really well, and I thought we did. Got to play. That's like I said, the 3 units is one.
Ivan Pace is the AAC Defensive Player of the Week. Just as a fellow linebacker, and he's right there next to you making plays, how much do you celebrate that?
I mean, you got to celebrate a kid like Ivan. He is just an incredible football player, and I think he's an incredible human being off the field. Very unique in the way he goes about his business, but to play next to him is an honor. I'm so glad that he's wearing the UC, the Bearcats across his chest, and like everybody saw, he's really fun to play with, and he's even more fun to celebrate.
We've talked about you guys kind of switching between Will and middle linebacker. Even during the game, how much freedom do you guys have? Because it seemed like sometimes maybe third down, he would move to the edge and you would come back to the middle and vice versa. How much is that you guys just kind of communicating play to play on what to do?
I think we have like a kind of distinct, set of rules, but we try to play to each other's strengths. And Ivan's really good, up in the line, getting off blocks, making guys miss, and I think that I can use my length a little more to advantage, dropping in holes in coverage, making it hard for quarterbacks to throw balls over me. So depending on what situation it is, we kind of have a little bit of freedom, but for the most part, we kind of have a set of rules that we go by.
If we can go back to Ivan, Coach says he's really quiet. I feel like that's the vibe we've gotten. What's he like in the locker room, or have you ever seen him kind of come out of his shell a little bit?
Yeah, so when Ivan first got here, he was definitely very, very quiet, and I think that speaks to him as as a person. He really just got here and came to work. For that first kind of 6-7 months he was here, he really didn't say a whole lot. He was kind of to himself. But more recently, I think he's started to become really comfortable in the locker room and around all the guys, and he's kind of started to come to life a little bit. And I'm not sure, what that switch was, but you can't really shut him up now. I don't know if I think it's a comfortability level just around everybody. So in the locker room, he's kind of the new energy guy, which we need more of those guys. Every locker room needs some energy guys, and he's definitely one of them nowadays.
Coach Fickell talked about, the one kind of objective goal you always talk about it is winning a conference championship every year. Is there any kind of, now you're going to pay closer attention, but is there any type of mentality shift or anything you guys do different starting this week as you move into conference play?
Not necessarily. I definitely think, conference play is where, kind of our goals meet, whatever we need to do. Our one goal is to play for a conference championship. Play for championships, and that road starts here. Not that the games that we played aren't important, because they absolutely are. That starts here on Saturday.
Any other questions?
We talked to Fickell about this too. Like when you first started here, a 21-point win, regardless of circumstances, would have been a notable victory. Is it weird to, even as a team, realize like there's room for improvement? There can be disappointment even in having a big win like Saturday.
I mean, after I've been through the entire growth of this program over the last 6 years, so to be able to come in and celebrate a 21-point lead like we had, felt really good. But in the back of your mind, you can still celebrate it. But when we come here on Sundays, there's room to improve. So that celebration process is, that 24 hours after the game, but you got to be able to, be mature enough to celebrate, but still take, learning points from the game.
Any other questions? Awesome. Thanks,
Yeah,
Phil.
thank you.